Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we're looking at one of history's absolute greatest underdog stories. We're diving into the Battle of Badr, all the way back in the year 624. Now, let's just get right into it because this wasn't your run-of-the-mill historical clash. It's a literal masterclass in battlefield strategy, unwavering belief, and, as you'll see, an impossible victory that ended up changing the world forever.
And that brings us to the core mystery we've got to solve today. Seriously, how on earth did an army of just about 300 men, guys who barely even had proper weapons, manage to completely crush a fully armed, highly equipped force over 3 times their size? I mean, they were standing right on the absolute edge of total annihilation. The power imbalance here is just staggering. So unlocking the secret to this impossible victory, well, that's exactly what we're going to do right now.
Section 1. Roots of the conflict. Migration and stolen goods. Wars never just happen out of nowhere, right? So to truly get this clash, we need to pull back the curtain on the events that actually set the stage. The timeline leading up to this battle paints a super clear picture. In 622, the first Muslims fled severe oppression in Mecca, migrating to Medina for a safer life and setting up a new city-state. But the Meccans didn't just let bygones be bygones. They actually confiscated all the homes, properties, and wealth that the Muslims were forced to leave behind. So when 624 rolls around, this wasn't some unprovoked war. Prophet Muhammad organized a small force to intercept a massive, incredibly wealthy Meccan caravan led by Abu Sufyan, which was coming back from Syria. The goal? It was a targeted strategic economic recovery operation to get their stolen wealth back, not an all-out bloody war. Section 2. Hubris accelerates. The march to battle. This is where we see how a totally logical, straightforward economic maneuver suddenly spiraled completely out of control. So, sensing the danger, Abu Sufyan pulls off this highly intelligent detour. He diverts his heavily loaded caravan far away from the ambush, taking this rarely used coastal route and completely secures the wealth. He also sends an urgent message back to Mecca asking for backup. But here is the critical point. The caravan was safe. Technically, the entire logistical reason for a clash, the economic target, was gone. Conflict averted, right? Well, actually, wrong. This is where we have to talk about the human element, specifically hubris. See, when the Meccan backup army reached a place called Jufa, they got the news: the caravan is safe. And the logical voices in the army were like, okay, problem solved, let's head home. But the commander, Abu Jahl, flat out refused. His massive 1,000-man army kept marching forward for one reason and one reason only: pure ego. They just couldn't swallow their pride, and they wanted to put on this grand, intimidating display of absolute power to everyone in the region. Section 3. Controlling the water. A tactical masterpiece. Okay, picture this. It's Friday, March 14th. Both armies are bogged down in heavy rain and thick mud, basically slogging their way toward a small town southwest of Medina. This is Badr. And Badr was vital for literally one reason: its water wells. The Muslims managed to arrive first and executed this flawless, 4-step tactical plan, thanks to some brilliant advice from a companion named Khabbab bin al-Arat. Step 1. Secure the well closest to where the enemy is approaching. Step 2. Fill all the other wells with sand. Step 3. Absolute control of the water supply. Because, think about it. In the middle of the desert, controlling the water literally means controlling life itself. If you lose the water, you lose the war. And yet, amazingly, they actually still allowed the Meccans to drink from their controlled well. So having completely dominated the environment and secured the water, Prophet Muhammad tries diplomacy one last time. He sends an envoy to the Meccans with a super clear message: let us not shed blood, turn back without fighting. But Abu Jahl, totally blinded by that massive ego we talked about, rejects this peace offering with such extreme arrogance that, bloodshed basically became a guarantee. Section 4. 300 against 1,000. The existential threat. All right, moving right into the heart of the battlefield. The sheer scale of the mismatch here is honestly going to leave you speechless. We are looking at a true existential threat. Just consider these terrifying numbers. To put this into perspective, the Medina army had exactly 305 men, 70 camels, and a grand total of 2 horses. Yeah, literally just 2. Facing them was this heavily armed Meccan juggernaut: 1,000 soldiers, 700 camels, and 100 horses. The Muslims were just hopelessly outnumbered. Make no mistake about it, A loss on this battlefield meant the total burial of this newly born religion, right there in the desert sands. Now, following ancient Arab customs, the battle didn't just kick off with a chaotic free-for-all. It actually started with traditional one-on-one duels. Hamza stepped up first and effortlessly defeated his opponent. Then came the triple combat. Hamza, Ali, and Ubaidah facing three top Meccan champions. Hamza and Ali won their fights quickly, though Ubaidah was gravely wounded, actually becoming the first Muslim martyr of the battle. So suddenly, Mecca's absolute greatest champions are struck down in rapid succession, and instantly the furious 1,000-man Meccan army launches this massive avalanche-like charge against the tiny force of 300. What happens next? Right at the bloodiest peak of the battle is fascinating when you look at how the different sources describe it. Islamic texts clearly report divine intervention, stating that thousands of angels were sent down to support the desperately fighting Muslims. At the same time, historical sources document a very sudden, mysterious, and incredibly violent dust storm, known as Bat-i-Kubra. This wasn't just a strong breeze. It directly slammed into the Meccan ranks, blinding the soldiers, causing total chaos and completely paralyzing their massive advance. Whatever it was, this unexpected event gave the Medina army the exact tactical advantage they desperately needed. Section 5, Literacy as Ransom, a Progressive Vision. Okay, so the dust settles, and the impossible has actually happened. Let's slow down for a second and look at how this newborn state handled its prisoners of war. Because their methods, they were entirely foreign to the brutal reality of the 7th century. After hours of intense, desperate hand-to-hand combat against a massive force, the total number of Muslim martyrs was shockingly low, just 14. Honestly, it's a stunningly low casualty rate when you think about the sheer scale of the assault they were facing. Contrast that instantly with the Meccan side. For them, it was an absolute, unmitigated disaster. Despite all their proud calculations and their supposed invincibility, they completely broke. They scattered and were forced into this humiliating retreat, leaving behind 70 dead and exactly 70 captured prisoners of war, which included some of their most prominent leaders. So this left the Prophet with a pretty massive decision. What do you do with the prisoners? He consulted his companions, and two very different views emerged. Umar advocated for a harsh, definitive measure, the execution of the prisoners. But Abu Bakr proposed a path of mercy, suggesting they should be allowed to pay a ransom for their freedom. Ultimately, Prophet Muhammad chose Abu Bakr's more merciful approach. The ransoms varied based on financial status, anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 dirhams. But here is where it gets truly groundbreaking. What about the Meccan prisoners who were completely broke but knew how to read and write? Well, in a wildly progressive move for the 7th century world, they were granted their freedom in exchange for teaching 10 Muslims how to read and write. Think about that for a second. Rather than seeking bloody vengeance or just trying to fill their pockets, they prioritized education and literacy above everything else. That is a truly magnificent vision for the future. Section 6, Spark of Greater Wars, Meccan Vow of Revenge. Now, as we bring this explanation to a close, we really have to pivot and look at the massive ripple effects this unbelievable tactical upset created back in Mecca. The pride of the Quraysh in Makkah was utterly shattered. I mean, they were just devastated. Having lost their main leaders on the battlefield, they quickly scrambled and appointed Abu Sufyan as their new head. And they didn't just mourn their dead. They swore a heavy, dark, and incredibly bloody vow of revenge against the Muslims. The Muslims had miraculously survived Badr. They achieved an absolute historic victory. But it leaves us with this final, powerful question. Was this stunning underdog triumph the final move that settled everything, or was it merely the spark that ignited the fuse of a much larger, bloodier war to come? It's a chilling thought to end on for sure, but definitely something to keep in mind as you explore the next chapters of history. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep learning.